Nedarim Daf, we begin with the beginning of the 8th parak of the Masechta, which discusses when somebody sets up a time limit for his neder, how do we define a time? So we're going to primarily be interested in which ending times are included and which are part of the next time. So let's discuss the various times discussed in the Mishnah, and then the Gemara will talk about whether or not there is a Gzeir D'Rabbanan, because two potential different types of phrases can be confused. So the Mishnah says if somebody asks wine that he's not going to drink it, and he says that this is for today. So the answer is only today. Today ends at nightfall, which is Tzesek Achavim. If he says for this week, so the week ends with Shabbos. Shabbos is the last day of this week, and Shabbos is included. Shabbos is always the last day of the week. It is not considered to be part of the next day of the week. If he says this month, so that includes everything up until Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is part of the next month. The Gemara will explain what is the Chiddush of all these. If he says for this year, that does not include Rosh Hashanah, which is part of the next year. If he says for this Shemitah cycle, so that includes Shemitah, which is part of this Shemitah cycle. The Shemitah cycle ends with Shemitah, just like the week ends with Shabbos. Now, if you phrase it slightly differently, instead of saying this day, week, month, year, he said one day, week, month, year. So if he says one day, one Shabbos, Shabbos here means a week, 1 month, 1 year, or 1 Shemitah, so then it refers to a full complete one, not today, but it refers to a full complete period of that time. So 1 day would be 24 hours, Meis Leis. A week would be 7 days from day to day, and so on for a year and for a Shemitah cycle. Now, what if he says up until a Yontif? So let's say he says until Pesach. So that does not include Pesach. The neder ends as soon as Pesach begins. He says until it will be, meaning until it will be Pesach, means up until and including Pesach until Pesach ends, the neder is in force. If he says ad lifnei Pesach, so machok is what lifnei means, if it means before or if it means that and there's any time of Pesach left. So Rabbi Meir says it's also up until Pesach and not including. And Rabbi Yossi says that goes until the end of Pesach. And now the Gemara begins. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yirmiyah says that there is a Gzeir D'Rabbanan when somebody says today that it includes past nightfall and it goes Meis Leis. And the reason is, the Gemara is going to give another reason soon, but the Gemara says the reason is because we're afraid it may be confused where someone says 1 day. If he says 1 day, it goes until this time tomorrow. If he says today, it goes until nightfall, but we make him extend D'Rabbanan until this time tomorrow, just so that he'll know to do the same thing when he says 1 day. Now, he could do She'el Chacham, the Gemara says, but without that, he has to keep the neder. Now the Gemara says, why don't you make the Gzeira the other way? Why don't you say, if you make a neder for 1 day, let's say it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you say, I'm not going to drink wine for a day, for 1 day. So that ends 3 o'clock tomorrow. That means it's ending in the middle of the day. So why don't you be concerned that people are going to say the same thing is true. It can end in the middle of the day, where you make a neder answering today, and it ends in the middle of the day. So the Gemara answers simply, that can't be. There's no Zera there. People are going to understand that it can't end today in the middle of the day. Why should it end today in the middle of the day? If you say today, it has to at least finish the day. That's not a possibility. However, to go the other way and to assume that if I say 1 day, it ends today, that is a very likely Gzeira, and therefore we make the Gzeira there. Now, the Gemara says another reason for this Gzeira, the Rabbanon, is Ravina Kotz Marimar, who said in the name of his father, of Yosef. This all goes according to Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. This statement of Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba is in the opinion of Rabbi Nassan, who says that it's also to make Nedarim. Somebody who makes a neder is like he builds a bama, and somebody who keeps a neder is like he brings karbanas on the bama. And therefore, since we don't want to make Nedarim in the first place, we made this Gzeir D'Rabbanan to knas you that you shouldn't do it at all. All right, now the Gemara refers back to the Mishnah. The Gemara wants to know what is the chiddush of all these cases. So first of all, we said that Shabbos is part of this week, not part of next week. The Gemara considers that obvious. Shabbos is the end of the week. These are all the days leading up to Shabbos. Sunday begins the next week, leading up to the next Shabbos. Versus the chiddush is, you may think when someone said a week, when he said a Shabbos, he may have meant a work week, and therefore he meant all the days of the week, not counting Shabbos, and Shabbos is not included. And therefore, the chiddush is telling me that that's not true. Now, when he said a month, so he said it does not include Rosh Chodesh. Gemara says that's also obvious. Why should I think it includes Rosh Chodesh? Gemara says it's referring to a 2-day Rosh Chodesh, where the first day of Rosh Chodesh is actually considered to be day 30 of the current month, not day 1 of the next month. Still, it's not included because when someone says Rosh Chodesh, when someone says for the month, it means up until Rosh Chodesh, even if Rosh Chodesh is day 30. Rosh Chodesh is not what he had in mind. He considered that to be part of the next month. All right, the Gemara now introduces a shaila. We spoke about if he says today, which is Hayoim, the neder is for Hayoim. We spoke about if he says Yoim Echad, the neder is for 1 day. What if he just says Yoim? What if he says I'm not going to drink wine Yoim? What is that? Is that like today or is that like 1 full day? How do we understand that? So the Gemara first wants to bring a proof from the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that if he says Hayoim today, then it goes until nightfall. So anything else, such as if he says Yom, includes until, that would be 1 full day. Someone says no, but you can make the same diak opposite from the end of the Mishnah, where it says that if he says Yom Echad, that's 1 full day meis leis, and not just until nightfall, which implies anything else, such as where he says Yom is until nightfall. So you have 2 contradictory implications, and obviously you cannot make any implication either way from either of them, so the Mishnah is inconclusive. Says Gemara, okay, I'll prove from a different brisa. We have a brisa that talks about if somebody says Hashana, and the brisa says the halacha is that if he says for this year, and the year happens to be a leap year, then the extra month, the 13th month, the leap month, is also included in the neder. So I'm going to ask, what is the chiddush of that? Of course, it's part of the year. Why shouldn't it be included in the neder? Chiddush must be that it's not really that he said Hashana, but that he said Shana. So it teaches me that if he just says Shana, it counts as saying Hashana, and therefore it includes the last month. So too, if he just says Yom, it's if he said Hayom, and should include until the end of the day and not further. Someone says, no, that's not the pshat. The pshat in the Mishnah is that it's really referring to where he said Hashana. How you ask what's a chiddush? The chiddush is, we may think that he meant a year like most years. Most years don't include the 13th month. He meant a year like any other year that ends at the end of the 12th month. The chiddush is no, he meant this year, whatever it is, until the year is deemed over al piden.